Thank you so much for joining us. Always a pleasure having a conversation with you.
Thank you so much, Dumela.
Thank you so much. Now, let us just get straight into it. I mean, there's a perception that farmers are rich, and perhaps that's why they're easy targets. But what is your take on this?
Well, indeed, the perception is legitimate, and in fact, it is correct. But I would like to say that, first and foremost, that farmers are not necessarily rich. Because indeed they are price takers, and I think something needs to be done about this perception, in the sense that the government has been doing as much since 1994, not necessarily 1994, but also before 1994. We need to appreciate that farming in South Africa is affected by certain structured political issues, primarily based on our historical views. To this extent, I think the relationship between the private sector in South Africa and government must work together towards assisting the farming community in South Africa, so that farmers can actually do what they know better. So the perception actually has negative implications on the South African agricultural sector.
Motsepe, let's just make a reference to the ecosystem or structure that you also referred to. What role does a relationship between the farmers and their employees play in, some of the leads that we find in, killings related to farmers?
The unfortunate part of it is farming, and indeed the relationship between the employee and the employer in the agricultural sector has never been given a priority by government when we started in 1994. I would have thought that our government should have prioritized this particular area of discussion right now, but we did not do that. And it will be very difficult, in my view, to now begin to say that farmers must do 1, 2, 3, which of course when we took government in 1994, we should have said that, in agriculture, let us do 1, 2, 3. And I can refer you to the Marshall Plan of 1952, after the National Party has actually won in 1948. There is no difference. So this we have not done. This administration of His Excellency President Zuma has indeed prioritized this particular matter that we are discussing about. We have not, in fact, brought about in public positive interventions that government have actually been trying to put on the table, and many of them have been very successful, but clearly that is why we still have challenges in this regard. And it is primarily because, and I'm not being critical about it, it is primarily because private sector is not really making the contribution that they have been making prior or before 1994, which give a suspicion that they are not necessarily supporting this administration.
But also going back to 1994, I mean, it is reported that between 1994 and 2014, more than 1,007 farmers have been killed in this country. How safe are our farmers?
Well, to be very honest and very practical with yourself and the general public out there, farmers are not safe and their workers are not safe as well. And I think the following factors need to be taken into consideration: that the backbone of food security are in the hands of farmers. And unfortunately, we haven't really taken farmers on board to do what they know better. And secondly, They are not safe because the police stations are far from farms, and the infrastructure issues play an important role as well. To this extent that I am saying that there need to be a discussion between the government and private sector and farmers, because we cannot afford that farmers should be killed in the way that they are killed, because these people are almost like you and me. I'm a farmer. If I'm killed, what would my children say to government, to South Africa as they grow? You can imagine that if they are indeed 1,700 farmers that have been killed, what about their children? How do they pray for the safety of this country that has killed their parents? Because we want to argue as NAFO South Africa that it is not only a certain community that is being killed. The workers are being killed. The women on farms are absolutely 100% defenseless. Even if you are raped on farms, where would you go? This is a community that is vulnerable, but that does not suggest that there are no crime in the townships. So therefore, we want to encourage government and private sector to come together to discuss, including church.
And speaking of those stakeholders coming on board to discuss these matters, Mr. Matlala, I mean, I understand that currently there are emerging farmers who are being, mentored by the established and seasoned farmers. According to you, is this a good strategy?
Far from it. We have argued as far back as 2006 that when you talk of mentors, it should not necessarily say that white farmers must mentor black farmers, because already you are creating politics out of nothing. Mentorship must be open to everybody that can mentor, because I want to say that there are really very important, very big farmers who are not necessarily white, very skilled, very knowledgeable. And I want to say and add secondly that there are black scientists that are absolutely qualified in research persuasions, in agricultural economies, whatever, in veterinary sciences. And I want to pay tribute to the parents of these young people that this government and ourselves have not recognized, so that they can play their role. And really, this is very critical, because Africa is now really geared towards ensuring that the development agenda of the continent is on the map. And the only thing that our governments should do is to recognize what we have and to develop it into an outfit that would make a serious contribution to Africa's agricultural problems.
Well, Mr. Matlala, unfortunately, that's all the time I had for you. I wish I could have more time to take this conversation further, but thank you so much for your contribution to this conversation.